G'day viewers, this is Troy from Troy's Visual Arts channel. I have some excellent news. My NBTV camera is now working very nicely, at least as far as I can tell. Yes, in my last video I've tested it out and I showed you the camera working. It was making an inverted picture though, due to the fact that the incoming signal was of opposite polarity, as it so seems, or somewhere along the lines the signal was getting inverted in the mixer circuit or head amp or somewhere like that. But anyway, I fixed that issue. I had to switch the leads around at the dome sensor, and that fixed that problem. Anyway, this camera is making a very nice picture. Of course, my digital camcorder is not very nicely synchronizing with the picture, and getting a bit of picture breakup due to the fact that it's running at 12.5 frames a second, whereas this camera is running at 25 frames, double the frame rate, so you get flicker. But overall, it is working, and here I've got on display my checkerboard test pattern, which was the classic test pattern used in the early days of mechanical television in the late 1920s and early part of the 30s. Anyway, got that on as a test pattern. And over here on display is the sync pulse coming from the encoder disc, which keeps the motor running at consistent speed, synchronises the motor, and it appears to be working quite nicely. I've adjusted, seeing it's meant to run at 400 Hz, so I've adjusted the pulse so it's about 2.5 milliseconds. As it appears, I am getting a little bit of drift in the pulse width, but apart from that, it's working quite alright. I'm taking a wild guess that maybe the pot might be sort of moving a little bit under vibration, I don't know, but yeah, I'm sort of making a bit of tweaks to it to try and get it at a proper pulse. One little thing I noticed though, when I had the 150 watt lamp cranking is when the light, if the light coming off the lamp is hitting the sync wheel, it's going to throw the synchronization off. Let me demonstrate. See what I mean? It just throws it into saturation. So you're getting plenty of light reflecting back onto the phototransistor, and not the infrared light. The infrared light plus the light coming from the 150 watt bulb, which emits infrared light, as when I had this camera with an infrared phototransistor as a pickup device, it was picking up light from the 150 watt light bulb because that also emits infrared as well as visible light, as I've noticed. So yeah, to counteract that problem, I just stuck a bit of wood in front of it during this test, because I've got the cover off. When I have the cover on it, that problem won't occur, because most of the light will be blocked out with the exception of the light coming from the taking lens. But anyway, yeah, let's see, we've got a nice picture happening. Bit of shading effects though, because I'm shining the lamp straight onto the test pattern. We do have a bit of a problem here with this disc arm. As mentioned, it's a bit warped, so it's kind of brushing against the bloody screw and nuts. That's not a big issue, because it's not really affecting the picture playback. Anyway, I'm going to shift the test pattern over to the NBTV test pattern. See how that shows up on display. I can probably just make it out. I can see it clearly with my own eyes, but the difference in frame rate and the picture breakup on the camera kind of throws things off a bit. Actually, no, I can see it a bit better now. You just see a bit of dark diagonal lines going across the picture, that's all. Actually, I might try and zoom in on it from distance, see how we go. But there you can make out NBTV, my hand-drawn NBTV test pattern. Yeah, it actually comes up a lot better when you zoom right in on it. Might just zoom out a little bit because I'm probably a bit too far zoomed in. This camera autofocuses, so I'm going to have to zoom out and then gradually zoom in, let it autofocus accordingly. There you have it, NBTV. So I might do a zoom shot of the checkerboard test pattern as well. So I'll move that back into the lens. Okay. Zoom right in and let it autofocus. Kind of struggling to autofocus a little bit. Ah, there we go. Beautiful picture, I say, apart from the shading effects caused by the lamp. Very nice picture. Now, I might stick my hand in front of the lens and so you can see a bit of grey scaling, not just silhouettes. So, let's see if I can get this into. So you can see my fingers on display. Even make out my thumbnail. So yeah, I think we've got ourselves a almost perfectly working synchronized NBTV camera. The only issue I'll probably have to deal with is probably the drift-in synchronization, as mentioned a little bit earlier on, as I'm getting a bit of a variance in pulse width. So now it's about 2 milliseconds. It's meant to be about 2.5 milliseconds for a 400 Hertz pulse. So that doesn't hinder the picture performance on the display, but it will probably cause a bit of issue with running at NBTV standard to output a synchronized signal to the computer for Gary Millard's NBTV on PC software, which I can record the picture signals to WAV files. Anyhow, I'm going to be hooking that up to my computer very soon and testing it out and see how well it works on his software. Might start putting some other objects on top to see how they look. Something that's it's got a bit more grey scaling to it, besides the silhouette kind of stuff like test patterns and all that. It's just a matter of, yeah, obvious candidate, me trusty little doll ornament. Stick that on display, see how she turns out. Matter of getting it into focus as well. Just bear with me for a minute. I'll just somehow. Well, I'm holding in front of the camera. Looks a lot more detail than it did on the Mark 1 version of this camera. That's actually, from the naked eye, that's actually a beautiful frame rate. It's almost, I mean, for 12.5 frames a second, it actually looks quite fluid to my opinion. Unless, of course, it's running faster than that, which I don't know. But yeah, it looks a bit fluid to be 12.5 frames a second, so I'm wondering about that. Not that it's a bad thing to my opinion for a fluid motion picture. To get a nice fluid motion picture on a mechanical camera is a pretty cool thing. Yeah, let's see. I'm going to stick the doll sideways and so I can get a looking a bit better. Might actually zoom the camera in. Focus. I think maybe the light might be a bit too intense because it's kind of whitewashing the picture a bit, but I can see noticeable gradients in it, which is a good thing. And that's the doll's dress. I'll just stick my hand in front of the camera once again, just for so what else did I stick in front of this lens? Got my cherry cola can again. That was a good test candidate. Focusing lights. Yes, positioning good. You can just make out cola on the screen. Got it in a bit of an awkward spot, so it's kind of positioned to the left of the screen, but a bit hard to tilt with this viewfinder out. That's a bit hard for me to tilt the camera sideways to show it, but yeah, there you see the cola of Coca-Cola, right, of the, you know, the labelling. Let's see if I'll get Coca up. Coca-Cola. Pretty good. Let's get my old favourites. Che Guevara C's power can. Let's get his mugshot on display. And focus it in a bit. It's a bit off where it should be. Might want to shift it over perhaps. Actually, I'll have to shift the whole bloody still. So there we go. You can see his face now. Well, it's actually really cool watching, actually moving the object around in front of the lens, you know, and seeing on a mechanical display a fluid motion picture. That's just quite a thrill for me. It's working pretty much just like a electronic black and white camera, but with a crude low resolution mechanical display. Pretty cool stuff, to my opinion. I'm actually very happy with the way this camera's turned out. So yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff I can put in front of the camera lens. I'll be doing some tele recordings at some point. But for now, yeah, I just showed you a few objects presentable in front of the lens of this mechanical camera. What I might do before I end the video and do some further experimentation with this camera is, yeah, I'll get the camera first, get the can into position. I'm going to just tweak the settings on the sync mixer. Just a bit out of position. Shift it over once again, just a little bit. Yeah, probably might raise it a bit. Stick it on a block of wood. It's a bit high, but yeah, stick it down a bit. Best we can get for now. I just want to show, or in this video, just show you a bit of tweaking to it. I'm going to be tweaking the controls. Get me trusty screwdriver. So I think this one sort of kind of adjusts the gamma part of it, or contrast or something. So here we raise up the contrast to get more depth of field, but at the cost of picture detail. It's more silhouette-y. Lower it, right pretty low, and got more grayscaling, but at the cost of depth of field. Turn it up till it's probably just right, which is about there. And then of course another adjustment, not sure exactly, probably also a fine tune adjustment. And yeah, I also can adjust the headamp as well. The headamp will adjust the amount of the sensitivity of the dome sensor. If I adjust it up too much, I'm going to get silhouettes. Adjust it down too low. Nice grayscale, but less sensitivity on the image pickup. So adjust it to about here, which is not too bad. And of course we've got to synchronize, so we've got an input signal adjustment. We want to lower the input strength. This also kind of acts as part of the sensitivity controls. Anyway, that's a pretty good image. Che Guevara's face, partially in focus and in front of the light, and partially out of focus. It kind of shows a bit of the grayscaling of the picture, which is pretty cool. Might try and get this to autofocus and do a zoom of it. It's a bit of a trick to try and get this to focus in properly, because this camera autofocuses on reference points for sharpness whenever you're focusing in on. And here we are, the screen zoomed in, and then you see Che Guevara's face in quite good detail. Anyway, I'm glad this is all working and I've soldered everything up correctly, and yeah, I can now really make practical use of this camera. Going to be obviously doing more tests, of course. As mentioned, I've got to hook this up to my computer and see how well Gary Millard's software can pick up the output video signal from this camera once I get the sync tuned in nicely. And there's my sync. At the moment, as mentioned, it's 2 milliseconds of division, so it's at 2 milliseconds, which is a bit low. As mentioned, it's kind of drifting. I'll have to try and adjust it a bit. Yeah, probably got some issues there. There's also another control here too. I don't know what it does. It's on the main sync board, but don't know what it does. But it doesn't seem to be doing anything whatsoever. I might try adjusting the trim pot capacitor on the oh shit. Just got my hand on the heat sink where that resistor is. That really, yeah, kind of burnt my hand a bit. Oh, yeah, I've got a tuning capacitor on the 400 Hertz clock. And we're, well, looks of things, we're at almost 2.5 milliseconds. Actually, yeah, probably about 2.4. It's kind of close, so that's a bit better. I've also got a fine speed control adjustment on this motor. I can tune that to whatever I choose to tune it to. Get another screwdriver to fit into that. Oh, it's a fine-tuned speed control. No, it doesn't seem to be doing much because I've already, I think the course control probably does most of it, but yeah, the fine tune does sort of can do fine adjustments to the speed control if you need to adjust it slightly. Anyway, well, this is quite a long video, but yeah, I'm overexcited, thought I'd just do everything live and show it all to you. Anyway, I'm glad this is making pictures, and yeah, once I really put this to practical use, I'll do another video. Now, I hope you enjoyed this long video. This is Troy from Troy's Visual Arts channel, signing out.